Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for being here on such short notice. I'm Congressman Maxwell Frost, proudly representing Florida's 10th Congressional District in the United States Congress. And today I'm thrilled to be here to share some very exciting news for our Central Florida community, but also the entire state of Florida. Today, the State Department has announced that Orlando, Florida has been selected as one of 6 new cities to receive a U.S. passport agency and office. Folks know that this has been something I've been fighting for since the day I got to Congress. When I got there, I was surprised to find out that Florida was one of the only larger states in the entire country to only have one passport office in Miami, which blew my mind, especially given that New York and California each have 3, and we're the 3rd largest state, and we only had 1. So we got to work. It's a mess to get an appointment, and if you're working in person, it can sometimes be virtually impossible to get down there on the weekends or weekdays, especially if you're a working person. Last summer, my office saw an influx in folks and cases of people who were very stressed trying to get their summer travel plans booked, whether it was for vacation or a funeral or graduation, only to figure out that their passport was expired or about to expire. Our passport system was totally backed up, with renewals taking over 6 weeks. As many of you know, I sit on the House Oversight Committee, and I oftentimes have the opportunity to interact with the heads of agencies and top agency officials. Unfortunately, a lot of my Republican colleagues like to take that time to focus on culture war issues. I tend to focus on the issues of Central Florida, and had the honor of being able to question one of the top people at the State Department in June of last year. I took that opportunity to bring up the inequities and problems as it relates to our passport system. And we fought to get Saturday office hours open at the Miami location. That way working families who can't take off work on a weekday could go down there and get help. We were successful in getting some limited hours open on Saturdays at that office. But we wanted even more, because we know that Central Florida is such a booming place, especially in terms of tourism. And we knew that that would just be a Band-Aid on a much larger issue. And I'm thrilled to be here with you all to say, after a year and a half of working closely with the Biden administration, not only is the state of Florida getting its 2nd passport office, but it is going to be right here in Central Florida and in Orlando. I got off the phone with the State Department just about an hour ago. Orlando is one of 6 new offices in the entire country. Now that the State Department has listened to our calls, the U.S. GSA, which is the General Services Administration, will take over the work of finding out exactly where the office will be within Orlando. We will be working with GSA and alongside them and our federal partners to select a location within Central Florida and within Orlando. I want to emphasize this is a huge win for not just our region, but our state and the entire Southeast. Up until now, the Miami Passport Office was the only one in the state, and Floridians really had only one option. The other thing we have to think about is the climate crisis, and whenever a hurricane would happen, if that office was shut down for a few weeks, we had no offices across the entire state of Florida. Well, that all is about to change. I want to thank the State Department and the Biden administration for listening to our calls. I want to thank the entire Florida congressional delegation for their support on this. I want to thank former Congresswoman Val Demings and Stephanie Murphy, who were also fighting for this before. It takes a team, and we're glad to have seen this over the finish line. Central Florida is the largest tourist destination in the country. The Orlando Executive Airport is one of the busiest airports in the entire world, not just the state. My office is very excited about this huge win. We hope everybody is too, and thank you so much. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Congressman, is there a timeline? I know you said the U.S. G is going to take over from here, but is there a timeline on when they hope to open this office?
Yeah, so we haven't been given an exact timeline. What we've been told is usually this process can take up to a year. So we're assuming about a year for the GSA to find out exactly where this office should go. We'll be working in collaboration with state and local partners to figure out good recommendations that we can give the GSA. Our hope is it'll be before a year, but we were given about a year timeline for that process.
As far as recommendations go, what would you suggest would be the best location to maybe open this office?
We, not at liberty to say just now, we want to engage a little bit more with our local partners. We have conversations with the mayor, with the county commissioners, city commissioners, the clerk of courts, who also does a lot with passports. And after we get all that information, then we'll move forward with GSA and figure out what our recommendations will be to them. Ultimately, it will be their decision, but we want to make sure that we get good input from the community and especially our local partners before we move forward on recommending a location.
And since there's a little downtime to help plan and get everything in order, how will the hiring process go to making sure there are enough people to fill that need, which we know is always wild?
Yeah, it's always a big need. Well, the good thing is Central Florida has a large quantity of very qualified workers ready to go, and our office will be there obviously to help make sure the State Department is able to fully staff the office, but I don't think that'll be a problem. We have fully capable people looking for work, and this will be a great opportunity to add some more Central Floridians to the federal workforce.
Do you have a timetable for when the location is discovered, when the office?
How long it'll take to open?
Yeah.
I don't have that right now. I think over the next few weeks and months we'll have some more information on how long after it's been announced, the exact address, how long it will take for it to open. It will depend on a few different factors. For instance, after my conversations with the State Department, sometimes they'll open up an office within an existing federal building. Well, that would take a lot less time than moving into a building that's completely empty. As you know, when a federal office opens, there's a new security apparatus that has to be added and everything like that. We went through that for this office when I first got elected to Congress. We obviously renting this from some local folks, but we had the government to come in and kind of add some added security to it. So it could take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months depending on where the location is, but I don't want to say just yet since we don't know.
Will the Orlando office return back to regular business hours? I know you said the Miami had Saturday hours and you pushed for that. So how will that look for Orlando?
I think, I don't know for sure. I would say to start it'll probably be the normal Monday through Friday hours, and I think after a few months or years of seeing how that goes, obviously we'll be always here to advocate for augmented hours. I think it's very important for working families, but the fact that we have it here in the first place will just be such a huge win, obviously for Central Floridians, but again, I want to emphasize this is a win for people all across the South. I mean, people have to drive hours and hours. A lot of people have to spend their own money to get a hotel to stay overnight because it's so far from their home. And so we're just excited that we're going to have this office here in the first place. Again, one of 6 in the entire country.
Do you know how much the government is investing in these new 6 offices across the country?
I don't have a dollar amount. We can get back with you on that. Obviously, it takes significant resources to open up a passport agency and office, so significant resources coming from the federal government here to Central Florida and into Orlando. That'll obviously benefit everybody here, provide some good paying jobs in the federal government. So we're excited about that. The other thing I'll say, though, is just last week we held a passport days with the State Department, and we had so many people come. We hosted it for 2 reasons. Number one, to help people, but also it gives us a proof point. You know, we were able to show the State Department here physically just how many people need this here in Central Florida. And so we were happy that the event went without a hitch, and there were so many people who were able to get the help that they needed, but it also helped us add onto the advocacy over the year and a half of making sure that we get this office here.
Why do you think there's only 6 offices that are open?
New offices?
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's 2 parts of this. I actually asked this of the State Department last year in that same hearing. And the good thing is they're modernizing, and they're really moving to the ability for people to get a lot of their passports online. The truth of the matter is, if everything is running on time, you shouldn't need to go to an agency in person. You should just be able to apply online. The problem is the former administration really severely underfunded a lot of our government agencies, and we have these huge backlogs. So the way things are supposed to work aren't always the way things are actually working. And because of that, there's a heightened need for people to actually come to an in-person office and get their passport there same day. And I want to talk really quick about the difference. There's a difference between a passport counter and a passport agency office. We have many counters throughout Central Florida, a lot of them operated by our clerk of courts, Tiffany Moore Russell, and that gives folks the ability to take their picture and make sure it gets over to the State Department, but they'll get it in the mail 6 weeks later or whatever it is. This is an agency here where you can get a same-day passport at that appointment, and that's the difference and the significance here. We've been working to, obviously, we want to expand the amount of counters there are, but what we really wanted was that agency. And the reason there's only 6 is because it's hard to get, to be quite frank. I've been speaking with a lot of my colleagues about the possibility of getting this. And last year when I went into a lot of senior members and said, I want a passport office in my district, a lot of them said that can take years to get, even if you get it, because it's just so much resources the federal government has to invest there. It's hard to get it as a freshman. But, you know, again, sitting on the Oversight Committee on Government, they're using a lot of these hearings to talk about culture wars and all this stuff that really no one cares about. And so if I have the opportunity to speak with a high-ranking official from the State Department, I'm going to use all my time to talk about passports because that's one of the top calls we get. And so we were proud to work hand-in-hand with the Biden administration after that hearing that really set the ball rolling to get this announcement today. Any other questions? All right, thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
I think we got some excited staff.
Yeah, sir.
Absolutely.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, all right. You had a question about
This is great news.
Well, look, you got here for a week and we already got passports.
This was wonderful.